What is going on, guys? It is the Front, and we are here for News, Rumors, and Prediction podcast number 2 for January 13th, 2018, when you guys will see this. Here we are 2 weeks into this year, and WWE, for the most part, except for NXT, which has not ever disappointed, in my opinion, has been the same boring old garbage we've had since last year. You figured new year, new opportunities, new things for them to build towards WrestleMania, and we haven't seen anything more than just same old, and I just don't get why. How can NXT, a 1 hour show, do everything right and make you want to actually be a wrestling fan, and in WWE we come back to Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live and we get nothing but embarrassment? Like, you would be embarrassed to be a WWE fan with what we have here. A lot of things happened this past week. We've had a lot of news. We have a former women's champion going down with injury and not going to be able to wrestle again for WWE. She is being disqualified. Rumors on Ronda Rousey and what she's going to be doing for the Royal Rumble, which I hope she's not in it. I really don't care. Cena's opponent for WrestleMania is also being discussed and confirmed by Dave Meltzer, who he's going to be wrestling. As long as it's not for the WWE Championship, I do not care. Even though the match that they're saying, to me, just feels like it's 2-3 years too late. Any match that has to do with John Cena, I really don't care anymore. He's declining. He hasn't done anything like that I really care about. We also hear about how WWE ruined King Barrett from one of his members of the Nexus in Ryback, so there's something there to look forward to listening to. We also have Mick Foley talking about how his first title win was says his first title win was a mistake, and that WWE could have did better than him, even though that was one of the most influential moments in WWE's history, and without that moment, WWE would probably not be where it's at today, simply because it did so well. We also have Mike Bennett going back and forth between a couple of fans about them calling him a failure and what he's been going through over the last 6 or 8 months. Quite honestly, I think they should have just had him in NXT, but we'll get to that when we do. Enzo on wanting Neville to stay in WWE. Neville, of course, as you all know, left WWE a little bit after SummerSlam. He walked out of a Monday Night Raw because he was supposed to lose a match to Enzo. And then we have Enzo here actually wanting him to come back and wrestle for WWE. Then we have also a former WWE SmackDown superstar woman, Diva, is in talks of coming back to WWE for the Women's Royal Rumble, as well as, speaking of the women of wrestling, a NXT's superstar's wife has recently signed with WWE. I will let you know all that when we get to it, and so much more. So, we're going to start this off with NXT. We all know NXT is going to be returning to Full Sail. If you're wondering when that's going to be, it will be it is in Center Stage at Atlanta for this past week's tapings, as well as the next set of tapings after the Royal Rumble. I honestly don't remember why they said, but we do know that they will be returning to NXT to Full Sail on February. Will be taking place at Center Stage on February 1st and February 2nd at Center Stage in Atlanta. The same place they tape this week's. The Full Sail taping should be the final taping before TakeOver. They will be on March 7th, so there's a little bit there. John Cena's WWE schedule is expected to pick up once the Royal Rumble is over. But before we get back to that, let's go back to the NXT thing. I wish WWE, as you saw, they were at Center Stage this week, I wish NXT would be on the road. I said this back when they did the San Antonio. I did this on my NXT review. I said it then. I'll say it again here. Full Sail has had NXT long enough. They've taken the takeovers out of Full Sail. They need to take NXT completely out of Full Sail. Yes, it's probably a little bit more convenient for them to be able to be in one little bubble, but the crowds seem more lively. the people who get NXT when they do doesn't get it that often. So to get a couple tapings, like you'll have Center Stage this past time that they did, and when they'll do on the 1st and 2nd of February for that too. It feels better than the crowd just picks it up and makes it feel better every time they go to a takeover. It's some of the hardest crowds you have. I would love to see NXT go from being in Full Sail to actually being on the road. Not every week. They're not going to do a recording of NXT every single week in like follow Raw and SmackDown, but I'd say like every month, like wherever they're at for like the pay-per-views, any like the pay-per-view for the month of like Raw or SmackDown, whichever one comes up, because they did slash the pay-per-views from 2 a month to pretty much 1 a month. But have NXT, if you can get the scheduling right, because we know they're going to be doing one like the week of Orlando, have like NXT in a Center Stage right now during the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Just have a couple taped episodes of NXT from there. When we get the Fastlane, tape a couple episodes there leading up to WrestleMania. Then have one in New Orleans, have a set of tapings in New Orleans, and just keep going and having NXT taped where Raw and SmackDown will, like the pay-per-view will be for that month. Give those guys in those towns something of a treat instead of just giving us the same old crowd in Full Sail, where we get this, like the first 1 or 2 tapings of NXT is always like hot, and then except for this last time because of that Fatal 4-Way, which was amazing, even with the Adam Cole and Undisputed Era taking everyone to task, it felt better than usual. But usually when we get to like that 3rd or 4th week of a takeover of an NXT taping for a taping set, it's just the crowd's dead. You can tell they've been there for 4 straight hours. Maybe with the Center Stage, what they're doing is like on the 1st and 2nd, they'll have 2 episodes on the 1st and 2 episodes taped on the 2nd, so the crowd will always feel lively, because those first 2 episodes of NXT is always good, and then it just falls off after there. Maybe this is also what them doing the 1st and 2nd of February at Center Stage. This is a way for them to test. Maybe they should tape on Thursdays and Fridays 2 episodes, so the crowd always seems lively. If they did that, NXT would actually feel a lot better overall. But that's my opinions on the NXT being not in Full Sail anymore. I don't want it to be in Full Sail. It just feels like it's past its time there. Monday Night Raw didn't stay in the Manhattan Center forever. It was there for like 6 months, or 3 to 6 months, and then they moved on. NXT could do the same thing, in my opinion. Now, John Cena's schedule is expected to pick up once the Royal Rumble is over. Cena, who is still being billed as a free agent, is currently scheduled to work several Raw brand events going into WrestleMania, which then tells me that he is not going to win the Royal Rumble, because we all know who's going to be wrestling for the Universal title at WrestleMania, and that's going to be Roman Reigns. Anybody who says anything otherwise is full of it. Cena was recently confirmed for the 30-man Rumble match later this month, as he has announced for a special guest appearance at the WWE Fastlane pay-per-view, which is a SmackDown pay-per-view. So I wonder what he's going to be doing there. Maybe the superstar he's supposed to wrestle at WrestleMania, he'll be like seeing him there. I don't know. That is also the final pay-per-view before WrestleMania. He will also be appearing at Raw 25, where everybody is going to be, including Raw and SmackDown superstars. So not a big surprise there. He'll be there. He's going to be in New York City for Raw 25, Philadelphia for the Royal Rumble, Philadelphia for Raw, Des Moines, Iowa for Raw, and every Raw up until, it looks like February 26th. He'll be for SmackDown in Columbus, Ohio. Ooh, I might have to get out there if I can. For Fastlane, and then April 8th for New Orleans. So between Fastlane and April and WrestleMania, it seems like Cena's not going to be doing anything. Maybe they'll have him booked later on. But with him being on Raw mostly, it looks like he isn't going to win the Royal Rumble, hopefully. A lot of us still want Shinsuke Nakamura to win the Rumble. I do. I want my two front runners for the Royal Rumble are Shinsuke Nakamura, and if they ain't going to go with him, I would love to see a guy like Rusev, who has been like most over guy on SmackDown right now, besides Daniel Bryan, as the winner of the Royal Rumble. It would be out of left field, and nobody would expect it. If Rusev wins the Royal Rumble, you know what, you heard it first. But I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be awesome. I think that would be just a great thing for them to do. Rusev versus AJ Styles would be an amazing match. Those two are good workers. AJ can bring the best out of anybody, and Rusev can hold his own in the ring. So I could see AJ Styles and Rusev, but if we can get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, which I have not seen the match from New Japan yet, so I would have to go see that, but I really don't want to because I'm hoping to see this match. But there is a rumor going out there that Vince McMahon does not want that match. He does want John Cena to break Ric Flair's fake record, which, if anybody knows, the 16-time World Championship record that they have, Ric Flair have, is bull. It's not real. He has 22 world titles between WWE, WCW, the NWA, and I think he has one in Japan. I'm not sure. I don't think he won the IWGP, but yeah. Ric Flair is like a 22-time world champion, so then to sit there, I guess 16 times sounds better, but it's an easier one for WWE to try and break because there's no way John Cena is going to win 6 more titles, 7 more titles or 8 more titles. It's just not going to happen. So expect to see, if you're missing John Cena on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown Live, you expect to see him starting the Royal Rumble on. Ryback recently. On a recent conversation with the Big Guy's podcast, Ryback gave his thoughts on why Wade Barrett didn't achieve more success in the WWE. Barrett won the first season at NXT back when that was an embarrassment and something I didn't want to watch on WWE TV, and I'm sure nobody else did too. This was back when Barrett was on NXT before NXT was cool, back when it was a reality show competition and it was just cringe. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. It took them 3+ years. And the final season of the NXT That's Way didn't even have an end. There was just I think there was 4 guys left at the end of that season, and it just kept going on and on and on and on until they were like, well, we're just going to kill this. I don't think they declared a winner. He earned a quote-unquote contract. He was a former Intercontinental Champion and King of the Ring, but never won a world title with the company. Ryback says he believes the WWE failed to properly utilize Barrett on so many occasions. He's one of those guys that, says Ryback, that universally everyone that was there, especially when I was there, the balls were dropped numerous times. With him, he is 6'6", 6'7", he always in shape, but at one point he was in ridiculous shape, Ryback said. For a guy that size, you have a big frame already. He is absolutely shredded, even though he got a little thin at one point. He got so shredded, but they were not doing anything with him as far as being used. There were numerous points he should have won the championship. He's had a lot of success there. They never pulled the trigger at the right time. Ryback said he couldn't understand why someone like Barrett, who got over multiple times, wasn't given a proper push during his time with the WWE. Ryback says he hopes to see Barrett achieve success in other organizations. We'll get to that in a second. When you hear something like that, you ask yourself why the fan reaction was there. Even if he's not getting cheered, people are interested in it. They are interested in it because of the guy. You can't just dress anyone up to play that role. Ryback says he is a superstar. He is a rare superstar that you should have maximized. Everyone that knows wrestling, that is involved in wrestling, he has a unique voice of a wrestler. He has a unique look as a wrestler. He has all the tools to do so, much more. Again, he has the success there, but he's a main event superstar. He has been in the main event at times and has run, Basically, yes, they dropped the ball multiple times with King Barrett, Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett. Another problem with Wade Barrett is that every time they started to build him up, he would get injured. He won the Intercontinental Championship one time and dislocated his elbow in a really sick spot where he was out by the announce table, and I think there was there was him and a bunch of superstars supposed to do that nice little spot where someone jumps off and they're supposed to catch him. And he ended up going back and dislocating his elbow. It was nasty. He looked like he literally shattered his elbow. But, I think Vince McMahon lost trust in Barrett every time he was like, well, we're going to give this guy the Intercontinental title. We're going to try and push this guy. And then he goes down with an injury. Boom, he goes down with an injury. Then they gave him Bad News Barrett, which everybody in the crowd loved. It was a gimmick like a Zack Ryder, or some of these others, or Damien Mizdow or Damien Sandow when he started doing his mimicking gimmick, where the fans love it, the fans are going for it, and WWE didn't expect it to go anywhere. They expected it just for them to go out there, something for Vince McMahon to laugh at, and the fans were going to boo all over it. The big reason for that is that he got over on his own, and he wasn't supposed to. WWE does not like people getting on their own. As I spoke about last week, when Vince McMahon talked to Kevin Nash a couple years ago, he told him that they said that the WWE superstars nowadays stand around and wait for him to with a like imaginary sword and anoint them their time. That's because that's what happens when you aren't anointed and it's not your time. That you're just going to be killed. Barrett had it happen to him multiple times. Rusev is going to suffer that same fate here soon because he is so over with this Rusev Day gimmick. He got squashed by him and Aiden English got beat in to a team that hasn't been used more than just the Fashion Files. So how am I supposed to take that team seriously if you're going to have a team that's just sitting there making jokes with the Ascension, who have been a joke the entire time they've been on the main roster? How am I supposed to take Rusev Day seriously if you're going to have them get rolled up? It wasn't like you got hit with the beauty shot or whatever Fandango's leg drop is and got beat that way. No, you got beat by a roll up. That was it. Ryback also during this conversation discussed one of Barrett's League of Nations stablemates, Rusev. He said he and Rusev are very good friends and they're in communication. He finds it funny when fans on the social media take the jokes between them too seriously because he says they have no idea how close he and Rusev are in real life. He is one of my legit good friends. And the Rusev Day thing, I have very big fears that Rusev Day is going to be killed before we get to by the end of the Royal Rumble. I just have that feeling because WWE does do that. Barrett was over, but WWE didn't want him to be over. Zack Ryder was over when he won the United States Championship. It looked like WWE was going to do something with him, and then they killed him by having him get squashed by Kane, beaten up by Kane, put in a wheelchair, thrown off, and just had his girl kiss John Cena in front of him and just made him somebody we didn't care about. So I'm just skeptical that Rusev Day, which is so over, it is the highest selling shirt in WWE shop right now, is going to be killed by the time before we even get to WrestleMania. I can just see by the end of this, he's going to be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, just like one of many others, and he won't do nothing. Quite honestly, I would if Nakamura is not going to win the Royal Rumble, which according to others that I've read and I've seen, which I don't have the full story, I couldn't find it all, but I've heard and read snippets of that Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles is called off for WrestleMania, which if Vince McMahon does not give Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, they are missing a massive opportunity for these two. It would be the best match. It would make WrestleMania that much better and give it it would earn the title Showcase of the Immortals this year with that match. Pulling it back a little bit, Mick Foley says first title win was a massive mistake. Mick Foley spoke with Sky Sports about his memorable first WWE Championship title win against The Rock on Monday Night Raw in January of 1999, which I believe that's coming up soon, or it's already passed for being 19. That's almost 20 years since that's happened, by the way. At this point in the Monday Night Wars, WCW was winning handily in the ratings as the live weekly show Nitro outpaced the pre-tape Raw. No, I think they were actually starting to lose. I believe they were losing at this time. On that night, WCW announcer Tony Schiavone via Eric Bischoff gave away the ending. We understand this is what Tony Schiavone said. We understand Mick Foley, who wrestled here as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title. That'll put a lot of butts in seats. About 600,000 fans switched over to Raw. I believe it was bigger than that, but that's what the number they want to give you. To see the finish and finish that in the big picture helped turn the tide in WWE's favor when seen as a mistake by Mick Foley at the time. It meant so much to me, and this is from Mick Foley, it meant so much to me on a personal level, and I think I am right. I'm saying the fans have voted it the best ever Raw moment. I wouldn't say that, but it's in the top 10 for sure, Foley said. I'm excited to have been part of so many big matches on Raw, but I saw me as champion as a mistake. I didn't think it was a good idea. I always thought the challenger should be chasing the champion, and The Rock was a great champion, but it turned out to be the best thing for everybody. We were going up against a massive live WCW show at the Georgia Dome in front of 40,000 people, which, of course, if anybody doesn't know what happened that night on WCW. While Mick Foley was winning the WWE Championship, WCW was putting on the Finger Poke of Doom, where it was Hogan coming out of retirement to face the recently won WCW champion Kevin Nash for the World Big Gold Belt. The match bell rung. They just like inching a little bit. Kevin Nash gets poked in the chest by Hulk Hogan, by Hollywood Hogan. Nash falls down. Hogan lays on top of him. 1, 2, 3, and they gave Hogan the title. That was the plan from the beginning at that, which was just a travesty. On a personal level, Foley considered it a big moment, but in terms of the company's future, he didn't realize how big of an impact it would make until he saw the ratings. It was not seen as a big moment at the time, Foley said. I saw it as a big moment for myself because I never dreamed of being champion. Which, if you're not in the wrestling business to be a champion, then what are you doing here? But we all thought it had been an exciting conclusion to a good show. We didn't realize the force of the show until the ratings were revealed the next day. I already mentioned this, but on that same Monday night, WC also had the title match between Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash in the infamous Finger Poke of Doom. Match where Hogan literally poked Nash to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship back. Foley was asked if he ever watched that night's Nitro ending, and he did, calling it a dreadful creative decision, which we all did. I remember watching that because I was a big Bill Goldberg fan in 1998, and seeing him get screwed out of the WCW World Title in the most one of the weakest ways ever, by having, it was a no DQ match, if I'm correct. Why they had to distract the referee to do this is beyond me. But Scott Hall tased Goldberg to let Kevin Nash hit him with the jackknife powerbomb. Kevin Nash won the title, and then he held the title until this night. I did watch Nitro later that night, and the Finger Poke of Doom was a dreadful creative decision, but the even worse decision was to give away the ending to our show. Foley replied, "It's obviously backfired," which quite honestly, I don't think anybody saw that coming. If Bischoff would have known that telling Tony Schiavone to tell the crowd, the live audience at home, that Mick Foley was going to win the WWF Championship at the time, that it was going to shift most of the people watching Monday Nitro over to watch Monday Night Raw, he wouldn't have done it, obviously. It's funny. It's interesting to talk to Bischoff these days, and he says he was doing what he thought he had to do to make his show better. He miscalculated and ended up kind of giving us a huge victory. Yes, again, I don't think anyone expected that to happen. Was it a mistake to give Mick Foley the championship? No. It's always nice to see somebody you don't expect, especially since it's like a Rocky moment. And that's why, he was when he won the match, he's like, "Adrian, I did it!" He did the whole Rocky speech, which anybody who wins a title, he doesn't expect to, seems to hit, parry that. But it wasn't a mistake, because as you saw, if anybody knows, at the Royal Rumble later that month, he lost the title back to The Rock in a brutal, very brutal I Quit match, which saw The Rock nail Mick Foley over the head, I believe, 11 times with a steel chair in front of Mick Foley's kids. Yeah, that was one of those moments that WWF at the time went way too far. Was it a mistake? No. But, if he could have won the title, and Bischoff not have Tony Schiavone say that, and it wouldn't be remembered for what it was. It could have also been Tony Schiavone tells us, hey, they're going to win that title, he's going to win that title, and nothing happens. It's just the right place, right time. If it would have been 6, 7, 8 months earlier, I don't think that effect would have happened. The fact that WCW started unraveling at that time, that it started going from, oh, this is a cool show, look at all the cool stuff, you have all these nice shiny toys over here, and WWE have these not so shiny toys, but the shine over on WWE right now is they started to get newer, shinier toys than WCW had at the time, and the toys over in WCW, I know this is a really bad analogy, but WCW's toys started to lose their shine, and they weren't replacing them with anything new. So I'm going to look at these ones and see what's going on over here, and everybody went over there. It's not this. It wouldn't have, if Mick Foley would have won the WWE Championship when he was in his first incarnation of Mankind, it wouldn't have been the same. Not even close. It's just right place, right time at the right when WCW and WWE were about even. I'm pretty sure WWE was close, if not already starting to win have victories in the Monday Night Wars. I'm pretty sure they were actually in the lead after the Mike Tyson's and the Mike Tyson events and everything that led up to WrestleMania 14 in 1998. Moving on here, Mike Bennett on if he is a failure in WWE. Which, of course, his name is Mike Kanellis in WWE, but I know him as Mike Bennett. SmackDown superstar Mike Kanellis took to Twitter this week to respond to a fan who commented on Kanellis being off WWE TV and if he will be in the Men's Royal Rumble match. This led to Kanellis engaging with a user who admitted he is a troll over whether he or not Kanellis has failed since signing with WWE. Before I get into that, Mike Kanellis is not a failure. WWE is. This guy has a lot of talent. He's worked all over the world, from Japan to Ring of Honor to Impact Wrestling. Been successful in all those places. He comes to WWE, and because his wife is Maria Kanellis, they put him on SmackDown. Mike Kanellis needed to be in NXT. Not most of the casual fans or the hardcore fans of WWE don't know who Kanellis is. WWE or New Japan, Defiant Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor. It would just be great, or IPW, or anywhere else in the in the wrestling world. Neville, or Pac as he was known in the Indies. This guy is too talented to be tied down to WWE. If he doesn't want to stay in WWE, that is fine. I would love to see him in New Japan versus Will Ospreay or Tetsuya Naito or Marty Scurll or Hiromu Takahashi or Kushida. I'd probably have to watch him at a later time, but still. Or come to Defiant Wrestling and still also wrestle Will Ospreay if they use him still. Or Joe Coffey. Or or Travis Banks. Neville or Pac versus Travis Banks would be a great match to see on Defiant's free TV wrestling show on YouTube. Make sure to check that out. I would love to see him come into Ring of Honor and face Jay Lethal, or Dalton Castle, or Flip Gordon, which was a great match that I saw last week against him and Marty Scurll. That was a good match. So, him being in WWE, his time, it should be over. They can't, unless he's going to be taken out of the 205 division, put on SmackDown, and feuding over the United States Championship, and maybe get a WWE Championship match where he doesn't win, especially if it's AJ Styles. AJ Styles versus Neville for the WWE Championship with AJ Styles going over in a 20 to 30 minute match. Sign me up and have my money. WWE bringing back former SmackDown superstar. Former WWE superstar Serena Deeb was in Pittsburgh earlier this week, apparently because she is in the middle of pre-signing medical testing. WWE's officials had a recent interest in bringing back Deeb to the company, according to PW Insider, and it looks like she may be returning soon, if all goes well with the medical test. The 31-year-old worked for WWE from 2009 through the summer of 2010, most notably as a member of the Straight Edge Society. She was the female in there, who, in 2009, ran out in the crowd and asked to be part of this stable and had her head shaved. So, yeah, her entire, first run in WWE was her with a shaved head. That was with CM Punk and Luke Gallows. She returned to the company in 2017 for the Mae Young Classic, defeating Vanessa Bourne in the first round, but losing to Piper Niven in what was a pretty good match between her and Deeb in the second round. She announced her retirement from pro wrestling in 2015, but later worked a match for Impact Wrestling and then the Mae Young Classic. Hey, it would help the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown, whichever one they would have her go to. Just gives you a little bit. It does give you an extra body. The problem is with these two factions, which one might have just lost its head. This problem with these two factions is you get the same matches over and over and over. They need to remove the factions and have it so you can have multiple matches. So we're not seeing not an Ember Moon, but a Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville and Paige versus Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Mickie James. And on SmackDown, which will now be Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Naomi versus the Riot Squad. Those just get boring after 1 week. And I said it on Tuesday after the match of Ruby Riott and Becky Lynch that those two will be in a 6-woman tag match next week. And lo and behold, that's what's going to happen. So good on Serena Deeb if she's coming back. That's great. Chris Jericho wants to be the Brock Lesnar of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Chris Jericho was on Busted Open Radio and discussed his match with Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12. On the draw of the match, when we did Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar and John Cena versus Roman Reigns on a kind of secondary pay-per-view a few months ago, I was kind of like, what an extra bonus for me. Because those are two of the biggest matches you can have in the wrestling world. Yes, back when that happened at No Mercy, every single one of us who are wrestling fans were questioning, why are these potential WrestleMania matches happening now? Why? These two matches should be at SummerSlam or WrestleMania, but you're having them at No Mercy. What a waste. Once those two matches happened, it left it right open for Alpha versus Omega. There was no other match that was harder in the business that could have maybe Cena versus Undertaker a couple years ago maybe, but I don't even know if that would have the same type of buzz that this one has. Cena versus Taker was inevitable, but this one, Alpha versus Omega, was total shock. Yes, because Cena versus Taker should have happened 2-3 years ago before the streak was broken. Okay, it would be 4 years ago. It should have been Cena versus Taker at WrestleMania 30, not Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker, or whenever when the streak was broken. Every dream match that you wanted between the Undertaker and like Sting or Cena, they lost their appeal. Unless the streak was alive, Undertaker does not have the appeal at WrestleMania that he'd had before. He still has veto over who he wrestles, but it doesn't have the appeal that it did back in the day. On his plan for New Japan Pro Wrestling, it doesn't oversaturate. It's don't oversaturate, which I wish WWE would follow that line. I'm not going to join the G1 Climax and be just another guy. I want to do the Brock Lesnar idea in New Japan. I just want to hit my spots and come and go almost where you like. This guy is never there, but when he's there, he makes an impact, and that might be the extent of it. So I just have to reevaluate and see what I want to do next wrestling-wise. What can I do and make an impact? What is available timing-wise, and how is my body holding up? On the reaction of the match, a lot of people are saying my last match was my best match that I've ever had, and I've never expected that. I know it was going to be good, but to have that's just a completely different level of excitement. Once again, it's just kind of stumbled into this really cool position. My marking smarts moves by using my brain. I think the smart thing is sometimes I think you just have to look at the forest for the trees and see what the big picture is. Does that mean that WWE will see Chris Jericho anytime soon? Probably not. If he's going to do deals with New Japan, I don't think he'll be back in WWE for a very long time if he's just going to be a Brock Lesnar. Unless he's going to do this with New Japan for this one, and as you saw, anyone who watched Ninja's Dash, he did attack Tetsuya Naito, so apparently that's going to be his next thing, because Naito did give him some comment, did not like the fact that they were calling Wrestle Kingdom 12 a double main event, which yes, it was. You had Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, which nobody thought was going to happen, and then Naito versus Okada, so that is a double main event. You have the match of the century in New Japan of Kenny Omega, of Alpha versus Omega, and then you have the world title match, which WWE really needs to go with. WWE needs to figure out how to not oversaturate. Look at this. He wants to be the Brock Lesnar. Why does Brock Lesnar have any type of specialness left with him? Because he's only there so often. Do I want to see him have the Universal title for this long? No. Have a year-long reign? No. But it doesn't mean that there isn't some specialness for him, because you only see him once or twice a month, if that. We'll see him for the Rumble. We won't see him March. We won't see him in February. But we'll see him. We'll see him towards the end of the month. But we won't March. But we won't see him on February. Chris Jericho wants to do that in New Japan, and I commend him for that. It makes it special. It's hard to do that in WWE nowadays for most guys, because they have Raw, SmackDown every week. This is what makes NXT special. This is what makes NXT great. You don't oversaturate the product on NXT. Yes, it's an hour long. Even with a 2-hour episode of NXT, in my opinion, they still wouldn't oversaturate, because they have so much talent. You could use the first half an hour to show us new talent coming up, or probably getting squashed by Lars Sullivan, and then the other hour and a half you could have big matches. WWE's main roster needs to figure out how to not to oversaturate. When Shinsuke Nakamura came in to SmackDown last year, they oversaturated him by having him on every single episode of SmackDown Live after the first month. They booked Nakamura right the first month. He did not wrestle on SmackDown. His first match was at Backlash. He did not wrestle on SmackDown. He was barely seen on the main on SmackDown. He was maybe in a couple backstage promos, other than his first night when he interrupted The Miz. And you didn't see him much, and you just had to sit there and see promos and everything. As soon as he had his first match, you've seen him on SmackDown every week, having tag team matches, or the same match over and over and over again. You can't, if you want somebody to be special, if you want the wrestling to feel special, you don't have to use the same guys every week. Raw, they try to make this thing up by they have to use Roman Reigns every week, or Seth Rollins every week, and Samoa Joe every week, who's not going to be around for a while now because of that legitimate injury he suffered. Plantar fasciitis is something you don't mess with. But yes, we are going to be losing Samoa Joe, which I'll get into that later. So, will Chris Jericho be back in WWE anytime soon this year? Probably, but I don't know. Most likely not, since I think 2018 he's going to not be in WWE at all. He's going to be in New Japan for his match against Naito, which I don't know when that's going to happen, unless they've already announced it and I didn't see anything. And then we probably won't see him for a while. Anybody who thinks, and speaking of Jericho, there is, people are trying to say Jericho's going to be in the Rumble. Jericho's going to be in the Rumble. No. He's got a tour date on the night of the Royal Rumble with his band, Fozzy. I don't know exactly where it's at, but I did read he has got a date with his band for a concert, so his chances of being in the Royal Rumble are slim and none. Moving on here, update on Hardy versus Impact for the Broken Gimmick. It is being reported that the Hardys and Impact Wrestling president Ed Normholm have come to the mutual agreement that will allow the Hardys to use their Broken Universe characters and intellectual property without fear of lawsuit. The specifics of the deal are not known at this time. The report comes on the heels of Matt Hardy a couple days ago shaking hands with Ed Nordholm for a picture of him shaking hands. He did post it on his Twitter account. You should go check that out on Matt Hardy Brand, at Matt Hardy Brand. I believe .com, I think, is the name of his Twitter account. But it's him and Ed Nordholm sitting there shaking hands, and everything between them is straight, which that's good. But I hope WWE will stop with the whole. The biggest problem I'm having with the woken gimmick is Vince McMahon loves. You can tell when Vince McMahon loves something about a gimmick, he pushes it too far. It does it way too much. And that would be Matt Hardy's laugh. Matt Hardy in Impact Wrestling in 2016, I do not remember him laughing uncontrollably over and over and over for as long as he has on WWE television. From day one, in promo 1 of this woken gimmick, all you hear is yeah. Oh. They even uploaded a 10-hour video of Matt Hardy laughing on loop from his first promo. That just shows you how much of the laugh they love, even though there's more to the woken broken gimmick than just his laugh. This past Monday, he had a match against Kurt Hawkins. Won that match, and there was a new spot that I haven't seen Matt Hardy do as regular Matt Hardy or broken Matt Hardy, where they were near the corner and he just hit a German on Kurt Hawkins into the corner. That looked brutal, but it was a good looking spot. And then you had the match end. Bray Wyatt's little came up, and Bray Wyatt was behind Matt Hardy. Instead of him attacking Matt, he just sits there and they just have a laugh off. So please let these guys this Monday on Raw get physical and go from there. I just hope that WWE doesn't just make it the laughing game from here on out, because it needs to be expanded more than just him laughing. Speaking of Impact Wrestling, former Impact star returns and wins the Impact Wrestling World title. I don't know if this is aired on Impact Wrestling yet. Spoiler alert to anybody who knows. Austin Aries made his Impact Wrestling return at the television tapings the other night and became the Impact Wrestling Global Champion for his first night back. If anybody doesn't know, Austin Aries, of course, left WWE last year after his feud with Neville, and he knew he was not going anywhere and being pigeonholed in the Cruiserweight division. He left Impact. He left WWE. First, he went to IPW, won their world title. Then came to Defiant Wrestling in the UK and won their world title. Now he comes to the Impact Wrestling and wins their world title. Hopefully, he cut a promo after this and took a shot at WWE for holding him down in the Cruiserweight division, because Aries deserved way better than what they gave him. Aries deserved to at least have a fight, a chance for other titles besides just that one. According to live reports, Aries confronted Eli Drake during an in-ring promo, taking exception to Drake referring to himself as the greatest man that ever lived. A match then took place on the spot with Chris Adonis attacking Aries, but Aries ended up making a comeback and he won the world title. After leaving WWE in July, Aries has appeared in House of Hardcore and various independent promotions, including Defiant Wrestling, where he is their world champion at the time. So good on Aries. I wasn't there for the things. I don't know anything else. Hopefully he took a shot, like in some kind of promo, cryptic promo, taking a shot at his WWE for holding him back and not giving him the Cruiserweight title. At least if you're having a series of matches against like Neville. You could have gave him the cruiserweight title to extend their feud past July. It would have been better. It would have gave Aries a championship in WWE and would have gave him a little bit more to do. News on the format for Raw 25. There has been a lot of speculation and curiosity about the upcoming 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. The broadcast will hail from 2 venues on the same night in New York City, which, of course, if anybody knows, is the Manhattan Center, where Monday Night Raw took place in 1993 from January 11th, 1993, up until, I believe, April of 1993. And then the other venue, of course, will be the Barclays Center. Speaking with sources, it can confirm that the current plans within the 3 hours airing on Music Network is for approximately 1 hour to come from the Manhattan Center, and the other 2 hours from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. The Manhattan Center, of course, was the original site of Monday Night Raw when it premiered in spring of 1993 until spring of 1997. I know that's wrong because I know they went other places between 1993 and 1997, but it is what it is. The 1 hour at the Manhattan Center isn't planned to be an hour straight, however, as it's planned to be broken throughout the show. So basically what they're probably going to do is they'll open there. What they'll probably do is they'll open there with JR and Jerry the King Lawler there. They'll have the first set of match, have a match there. Then they'll go to the Barclays Center, have a couple things there, and then we'll go back and forth between the two, which I think is just going to be a headache. Just do the first hour. Honestly, I think if you just do the first hour from there, it would be much better than having them do that, because that's just kind of dumb for them to do that. Oh no, my notes just got messed up. But yeah, the Raw 25, that's just dumb for them to think to do that. Another question is about the talent and who will appear on what venue. It is expected that The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels will be both making appearances at the Manhattan Center, which would make sense because they were there for the first episode of Monday Night Raw. Shawn Michaels opened Monday Night Raw, the first episode, if I'm correct, and of course, Undertaker closed 1993's first episode of Monday Night Raw, facing Damien Demento in a squash match. However, it is not out of the question for us. They both can make appearances at both shows, sometimes in the evening, as some superstars making double appearances and being prepared and written for. Which pretty much would be if they were to show up in the first, if they would do an hour straight through, which they should. You would have Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in that first hour. Then you would have them show up, at least the Undertaker show up at the Barclays Center in the third hour. So you give him an hour between both shows. I don't know the distance between the Barclays Center and the Manhattan Center. I don't live in New York. I've only been there one time, and that was before the Barclays Center even existed. Another aspect of Raw 25 that we've heard from several in the company is that backstage footage is currently being planned to shoot a documentary that day. It's thought that capturing the simultaneous venues broadcast and its logisticals for the milestone event will be packaged together for a WWE 24 Network series on the WWE Network, which, by the way, if you have not seen any of the 24 specials, you should go check them out on the WWE Network. If you don't have the network and you're kind of skeptical, go find a friend who has the WWE Network and go check out the 24 specials, because they are by far some of the best stuff on the WWE Network and worth the price of admission. Several current talents have informed us that they and others in the locker room would like to be at the Manhattan Center for the nostalgic experience, since many were fans during that time. But we have been informed that majority of the current full-time roster members will be used at the Barclays Center. Not a surprise. But you gotta let those guys, for most of them, you gotta let most of them, since it's going to be one of those things, you could have, say, Sasha Banks or Bayley. I'm sure Bayley's gonna want to be over there because she is a fan. She's the biggest fan in WWE right now, who is also a superstar. At least have them, at least be backstage, and, if they need to be over in the Barclays Center at a certain time, then you can have them shuttled over there. You're going to have Raw and SmackDown and Legends all over the place, so it's going to be a hectic day that day. Triple H, on this, if there would be an exception for Daniel Bryan to wrestle again. This is a hot topic in the wrestling business right now, with if Daniel Bryan is going to be back in WWE as a wrestler anytime soon, or is he going to be leaving the company in September. As noted, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon took questions at the Television Critics Association Winter Tour event in California. The Wrap asked Triple H if there was some sort of exception in WWE strict policy that might allow SmackDown General Manager Daniel Bryan to return to the ring. Triple H said, and I quote, "There could be no exceptions medically," Triple H said. "If the belief is that he's not healthy enough and there's a risk for him to perform, then I don't know why you'd allow him to step into the ring unless it can be proven otherwise. There will be no exceptions. We have some of the best medical people bull, I don't buy that, in the world that work for us. Our wellness policy, our concussion programming, or protocols, I'll put them up there against any on the planet." This is also the medical staff that misdiagnosed CM Punk's staph infection that could have killed him multiple times and just called it nothing. So that's the same medical staff that you're talking about right now. The same medical staff that refuses to clear Daniel Bryan when every doctor in the world that he has gone to has cleared him. So that is red flag number one. That is a new science in a way too, so we're going to look at it from all aspects, but the medical experts will make the determination as to whether he can ever step into that ring or not. Look, personally for him, I know it would be something he would love to do, and a part of me feels like I hope he has that opportunity, but at the same point in time, he's married and has a child. Certainly, we put the human being first. Bryan has not wrestled since April 2015. He announced his retirement in February 2016, but has since said that he plans to wrestle again this year unless doctors advise him otherwise, and when he means doctors, he means outside of WWE. His contract with WWE expires in September. So, yeah. Daniel Bryan is probably going to be leaving WWE this year. He doesn't want to. He would love to wrestle for the big W again at WrestleMania, but he wants to actually wrestle. He doesn't want to just sit there on the sidelines. He hates being the WWE's. He hates being the general manager of SmackDown, and there has been word out there that he did get a contract extension offered to him by WWE, and he turned it down. He doesn't want to be general manager of SmackDown, so he's going to be leaving in September. If he does not get cleared by WrestleMania, he knows his fate, and it's going to be outside of WWE. Now, the reason WWE is trying to turn Daniel Bryan heel, and this is very petty, and I'm not surprised that WWE is doing this because they could be this petty. WWE is teasing Daniel Bryan to be a heel simply because they want to kill his momentum when he leaves the company so that he doesn't have as much fanfare when he comes back. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, WWE, but if Daniel Bryan leaves WWE in September and say Ring of Honor books him for the final battle this year, or Death on Dishonor, I don't know when that's actually in, or whatever the biggest event is in September. If the All In, which we'll get into in a couple minutes, has him booked for it, that place will fill up. I can't snap like that. That place will be filled to the brim because Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, is making his return for an All-In funded by the Bullet Club. WWE doesn't matter what you do to Daniel Bryan as a heel. He could leave WWE as a heel, and as soon as he walks into any promotion he goes to, it could be Impact Wrestling, which I guarantee you they will be ringing on his phone. Don Callis or whoever's in charge, Ed Nordholm, whoever, will be sitting there calling Bryan Danielson the minute his contract is up and he is a free agent. There will be calls from Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, Defiant Wrestling, IPW, Evolve. All of these wrestling promotions are going to be calling Daniel Bryan to book him. The first person that he gets booked will be making millions off of him because he will be putting everybody's butt in a seat to see him wrestle. If they want him to stay, and I know why they're not doing it, I understand why they're not doing it, they got to clear him. But the biggest reason, there's two biggest reasons they don't want to clear him. One, because they have a litigation against them. There is a concussion lawsuit going on against WWE right now. It would make them look like hypocrites. It would really hurt their concussion policy and the concussion lawsuit if WWE was to allow Daniel Bryan to wrestle, and he got injured, he got hurt, or he got paralyzed, or he died in the ring. It would hurt WWE completely. And also, say none of that injury stuff happened, they don't want to interrupt the Roman Reigns initiative. They don't want to admit it. Daniel Bryan was forced to retire so they could push Roman Reigns without him getting in the way. Daniel Bryan has been over and will always be the most over person in this company since Stone Cold Steve Austin. He still comes out to the biggest reactions in WWE today. He's been retired for 2 years almost. This February will be 2 years since he retired, and he's still the most over guy in the company. Yet they want Roman Reigns to be that. WWE should look at Daniel Bryan and wonder, why can't we get that from Roman? Why can't we get that? Why is Roman Reigns not getting those cheers? Because we don't buy it. We don't buy that he is who you say he is. We know that he is your little puppet. We know that you guys want him to be the Stone Cold and that it's not going to work. He's getting cheers now because of this whole Shield thing still floating around. But if you have him go to WrestleMania to wrestle Brock Lesnar, I guarantee you, by the time we get to New Orleans, he will be booed out of the building. If they close WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns 3 years after they tried to do it at WrestleMania 31, it will be a travesty. There will be a catastrophe on their hands. Last time they had an out. And they used that and gave the title to Seth Rollins in one of the greatest moments in the last 10 years at WrestleMania. They don't have that this time. One, because the Money in the Bank briefcase was on SmackDown and it's been used already in one of the most dumbest ways I've ever seen. So they have to go and make sure that Roman Reigns is not going to be booed. And if Roman Reigns does end up getting booed at WrestleMania, they need to pull the trigger on him turning heel, coming out the next night, trashing everybody, trashing the fans, shaking Triple H and Stephanie McMahon's hand, saying everything he needs to be the biggest heel. It would benefit Roman Reigns completely. Will we see that? We have to wait. So yes, Daniel Bryan, if Daniel Bryan does not get cleared by WrestleMania, he is going to be done with WWE in September. And I'm looking forward to see him show up in Defiant Wrestling, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Will we see Daniel Bryan versus Cody Rhodes at Wrestle Kingdom 13? Or Daniel Bryan versus Okada at WrestleMania Kingdom 13? Or Daniel Bryan versus Will Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom 13? Or Marty Scurll? Or anybody? Heck, it would be funny if Daniel Bryan joined the Bullet Club. I doubt that, but it'd be funny. Moving on here, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon on Rich Swann. As you all know, Rich Swann was arrested late last month for domestic violence for an argument he had with his wife, and a couple of witnesses saw this go down. No charges have been filed against him yet, or they haven't been dropped. Everything between him and his wife seemed to be getting better, but they have confirmed that he will be immediately terminated from the company if he is found guilty of the domestic charges from the incident with his wife last month. Triple H commented, "We are waiting on legal." Triple H said, "We have a zero tolerance policy on that." And as you've seen, so he's suspended until it is determined legally one way or another. If he is convicted, he will be released, Stephanie added. Triple H added to Stephanie's comment immediately. Yes, so Rich Swann, we don't know what's going on with that. There has been no comment. I have a feeling they're just dragging this out and eventually it's going to be dropped. And we will have Rich Swann come back. But he won't be where he was going to be as the number one contender to Enzo's title. We are probably going to see him come in and he'll get the Braun Strowman treatment after Raw every week. He'll get hit with power slams to be punished for causing any kind of PR nightmare for WWE, and he'll just be a jobber from then on out. Just a little something here. Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan had a little bit of a Twitter exchange. Alexa Bliss got a little bit offended because Liv Morgan had dyed her pigtails or whatever purple. Alexa Bliss took offense to that. She thinks she copied her. The funniest note about this is works, it's good for everybody. I want to work with guys or groups or organizations who are in the business of cultivating talent and not just putting on shows and not just putting on an event, selling some tickets and moving on. People that are interested in cultivating talent and helping to push their careers along and to move them along. So yeah, Gabe Sapolsky is going to be signing with WWE. If he's been working with them on a handshake deal for months, then yes, you should sign a deal with him. WWE, I think Vince McMahon's been down that road before with handshake deals and going to sign a contract with somebody and it just biting him in the butt in the end. So good on WWE for that. So that's always a good thing. 2 former divas contacted for the Women's Rumble match. WWE contacted former WWE Women's Champion Molly Holly and Michelle McCool about competing in the 30-woman over the top rope Royal Rumble match, according to PW Insider. WWE sources tell PW Insider that Molly Holly has agreed to compete in the Royal Rumble match on Sunday, January 28th. Her last match took place in 2009 in the 25 Diva Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal at WrestleMania 25, which in my opinion was just awful. Hopefully this match at the Royal Rumble, which I still think is going to be a bad match, would be 10 times better than that garbage. That was hot garbage, and yes, it was won by a man. So let's hope she's going to be back. She now serves as a coach at the Academy School of Professional Wrestling in the Minneapolis, Minnesota, owned by Ken Anderson and Sean Devary. I wish they wouldn't have put that in there. I do not like to be reminded of the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal because that was just hot garbage. That pulled WrestleMania 25 down from being a great pay-per-view or a good pay-per-view to an okay pay-per-view. That match right there should have never happened. And it was won by a man. So, there's that. McCool has yet to agree to compete in the Royal Rumble match, as it was only noted that she spoke to WWE officials about it during a recent interaction with SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair on Twitter. McCool indicated she would be interested in returning for a match after retiring from the Squared Circle in 2011. Why not just agree to that match and then get a match at WrestleMania? Your husband is The Undertaker. I mean, if you wanted to, she could do that. Come work a program up to WrestleMania. Put Charlotte Flair over. Who's probably not going to be who. I don't know about that. Because Charlotte's going to be the women's champion. You're not going to have Michelle McCool wrestle the women's champion at WrestleMania unless she was going to win it. So, unless Charlotte's going to lose the title, which I could see them doing that just to have this match. But because the 4 horsewoman match is not happening at WrestleMania. We already know that. But I could see them if Charlotte was to lose the title at Fastlane for like Naomi or Becky Lynch versus somebody else for the women's title, and then you could have McCool versus Charlotte Flair. But that is what it is. So Molly Holly, expect her to be in the women's Royal Rumble, with one person being out of the women's Royal Rumble match due to injury, and that's 17, I believe I counted, 17 women from the main roster. News also is that there are 9 women from NXT who are going to be used for the Women's Royal Rumble match. That leaves 4 spots open. And with Molly Holly being one of them, that leaves 3 spots. Who those other 3 are going to be, I don't know. Kia Stevens, a.k.a. Awesome Kong, a.k.a. Karma, also said she would like to be in the Women's Royal Rumble match, but hasn't been contacted by WWE. She would like to have closure to her career by being in that match. So I could see her being in that match. Her squaring off against Nia Jax would be a moment for everybody to see. And somehow her and Nia end up getting eliminated together. That would be interesting. So the Royal Rumble women's match I'm still not a fan of, but we'll see what happens from here. Now we move on. Bobby Roode on who helped him join WWE. This one, I kind of figured this was an obvious one to me, who helped him, even though I didn't know until I read this, but it kind of felt like this was obvious to me. Bobby Roode was recently a guest on the Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. During the conversation, he discussed his acclaimed run in NXT. After spending his entire career with Impact Wrestling, Roode joined NXT in 2016. He credits former Impact superstar Samoa Joe for helping him make the decision to be part of WWE's development brand. Quite honestly, there was 3 options for people to help him come to WWE. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, or Eric Young. So it was either, I don't think AJ Styles would have been that. but it still could have been. I'd say Joe or Eric Young, because Eric Young and Bobby Roode go way back. If anybody watched a couple episodes, you can actually find it on YouTube of Bobby Roode and Eric Young teaming together on an episode. I think it was an episode of WWE Jack, WWE Metal, or WWE Heat in a losing effort. But a very young Bobby Roode and a blonder, very young Eric Young, back when he was the comedy character on NXT, on not NXT, but WWE's TV back in the day. You can find it on YouTube. So yeah, it was either Samoa Joe or Eric Young for me, but Samoa Joe, for helping make his decision to be a part of WWE's development brand, he quickly became the brand's top heel. I miss that Bobby Roode so much. Bobby Roode's best work in Impact Wrestling and WWE's NXT was him as a heel. And I mean the heel of the show, when Bobby Roode was like the longest reigning TNA heavyweight champion at the time. I don't know if he still is or not, but that was his best work in TNA and Impact Wrestling. His best work in NXT and in all of WWE was when he was a heel and he was the NXT champion. Hopefully, we will see that when we get further and further in the year. Roode said he benefited from great timing in that he joined the brand when some of its top stars were going to the main roster. It came at a really good time. Timing is everything in this business. I still think even if he would have came in 6 months earlier, he still would have ended up getting where he was at. It just would have took a little bit longer. And at the time I was coming in and a lot of guys were moving up. It was the year of the draft. So a lot of big names from NXT were able to be called up to the Raw and SmackDown. So a lot of holes to fill. That was my experience. Came in, was able to work alongside Samoa Joe. Joe and I had a lot of history before, and Joe knew me and I knew Joe. Roode said he was one of the main reasons why I came down to NXT, so I was able to work with Joe. Austin Aries got to be put into matches with Nakamura and Finn Balor. Then when everybody kind of moved up, on and up, I was able to have an opportunity to be the face of the brand and be put into a feud with Nakamura, which was a pretty good feud from 2016/17, or was it just 16? 17. The beginning of 2017 was great for NXT with Nakamura and Bobby Roode because those two had some great matches. For around 8 months, it was amazing and such a great experience. We started traveling around domestically and we put on all of the live events. It was a really rewarding experience. Roode was called up to main roster this summer and joined SmackDown Live in August. The WWE decided to push him as a face despite his success as a heel, which it's still a big mistake. They have him as a babyface, and you can't really have somebody like Bobby Roode is an okay babyface, but he's more of like he's born and bred to be a heel. His best work in Impact and WWE and all over the world has always been as a heel. This just because his music was being sung to, which as you can tell, if anybody's been watching WWE lately, hasn't been happening as much. This guy needs to be a heel. He needs with, the other companies saw that writing on the wall. I had zero regrets in my career and was treated very well, but I just came to the point in my career that I was part of the company for over 12 years and felt like I did everything that I could possibly do over there. Won a couple more world championships, but that was about it. I was doing well, supporting my family, and had zero complaints, but this goes back to the question I stated along a while ago. I'm going to go to work for 6 days and go sit for 2 months, and they'd want me to come back to work 7 days, maybe twice in one day, and then go sit down for 3 months. That is not why I got into the business for. That's why, like, Bobby Roode's one where he didn't go work independence, but like when they do Impact tapings, which they do too many at a time. Like this week, they're doing 6 days of Impact Wrestling tapings. That's too much. WWE's and that's another problem, is that they don't do house shows. Impact doesn't do house shows, so that really bums for the guys like Bobby Roode who want to go and wrestle. But Bobby Roode really didn't work house shows. He just in independence. He was Impact, and that was it. I got into the business to be on the road, working live crowds and on television, being home for a couple of days, and then going back on the road. That is the type of schedule that I want, and the type of schedule and why I got into the business. Working there, I started to lose the passion for the business that I have always loved. I love the business, and I had gotten to the point in my career while working for that company that I started to not love it anymore. So that was what I went home and figured out that I wanted to do to see if I still loved it. Fortunately for me, I got the opportunity. It's been great. So yeah, I can understand that. I'm surprised that people, like a lot more people in Impact Wrestling, like that's why Eric Young probably left too, and that's why Samoa Joe probably left too. They were tired of working once a month and not really doing anything else, because like Rude, Young, and Joe didn't go out and work independence. And at the time, I'm pretty sure Impact, when Dixie Carter was still in charge when these three left, like they didn't do house shows. Like they did house shows, like they stopped doing house shows in like 2012 or 2013 or something like that, or probably even 2010. It's not easy to be like doing seven shows in a row in 7 days or twice in one day, and then not doing anything for a month, for like 4 months. Impact tapes their shows for 4 months and like 2 to 3 months in a row. A lot of those people just don't want to sit on their butts at home and do nothing. I mean, yeah, it's probably great to see the family if you have a family, but they want to go and compete. And then you see people like Moose and EC3, which I thought he was done, but I think he's not done. I thought he was actually done, but I guess not. But you see guys like that, and they go to the independents, and like you have like Moose, who I've seen in Defiant or WCPW a couple of times. You see them go off and rest in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, PGW, I think, or PWG in the UK, because they can without being scrutinized for TV time, because it's not on TV. They don't have a TV schedule for that. But they, like people like Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, and Eric Young, they want to be there every time. They don't want to just be there, collect a paycheck, and be done. Those guys are great. Those guys are great at what they do. So I commend Bobby Roode for that, and the reason he left Impact Wrestling. But Impact Wrestling, just like, you can't sit there and record and have like tape. This isn't the '90s or the '80s. Even though in the '80s, those guys, they didn't, like, when TV was just getting started, they went and they did their TV tapings, but then they had house shows. Impact Wrestling is missing out on a lot, and a lot of those guys, they don't seem to care as much, because all they are is they're going there, they wrestle 3 times a week, 3 times in 1 month, and then they go off and do something else. It's just, I don't understand how Impact's even still around with the way they do their business. But yeah, Bobby Roode is in WWE because of Samoa Joe. He gives him a lot of credit. And it said Austin Aries too, but I don't really remember him and Austin Aries doing much, because Austin Aries did break his orbital bone in the beginning of 2017, which ended up him ending up on 205 Live, which was a massive mistake in WWE, and they missed a big opportunity for Austin Aries. I would have loved to see an Austin Aries and Bobby Roode feud in NXT for the NXT Championship around WrestleMania time or right after WrestleMania, instead of, I think we got Hideo Itami for a show. But yeah, that's Bobby Roode. Cody Rhodes reveals date of All In show. They're calling it the All In show. Cody Rhodes revealed that on Twitter that his upcoming 10,000-seat arena show will take place on September 1st. The event, titled All In, is rumored to be taking place near Chicago. We do not have that confirmed yet. They did say they will. They will. A Twitter account for the event has been created, all_in_2018. Actors team in the Metal Who teamed with Neville to defeat Cody Rhodes and King Barrett at SummerSlam in 2015 will apparently be a part of the event, as well as the Young Bucks, Marty Scurll, Hangman Page, and Kenny Omega. So Chicago, I think, should get it simply because they have some of the two places I think that should get it are Chicago and Philadelphia in the United States. If they want to go overseas, I'd say UK, probably one of the Liverpool or one of those places that Defiant's been at over the year, because those are some great fans. But if you're going to be in the States, you got to go with Chicago or Philadelphia. Those are some of the best fans that you have. Of course, Chicago would probably be the better of those two because Philadelphia are the harshest fans in the world. News on... Oh yeah, speaking of, they will, in an upcoming episode of The Elite, Being the Elite on YouTube, they will reveal that venue. I don't know when that's going to be. It could be the next episode. I don't follow The Elite, Being the Elite. I've never seen an episode of it. But as soon as I get information on that, I will let you know. If it is next week, I will let you know on the next episode of News, Rumors, and Predictions. Looking for a new name, like an official name. This is just a temporary name for this show. But moving on here, news on Hall of Fame class of 2018. It has been noted before that Bill Goldberg was set to go into the Hall of Fame class this year in New Orleans, first reported by freelance writer Brad Shepard. The Wrestling Observer newsletter has now confirmed that Goldberg will be the headliner of the class of 2018, as well as the Dudley Boys were also on the original list of names reported, and it is possible WWE announces their induction during the Raw 25th anniversary show on January 22nd, as they were recently confirmed this past Monday that they will be at the event. Besides Goldberg and the Dudleys, other names reported but unconfirmed as this writing are Ivory, which will be your woman, Bam Bam Bigelow, who would be your recently departed, and Kid Rock will be your celebrity wing, which that checks all boxes, which is headliner, tag team, woman, post-mortem, and celebrity. Kid Rock, but everyone else, I can see it. Goldberg's induction should be announced soon as possible, as soon as possibly as early as Monday Raw. Tickets do go on sale on Fridays, so you want to get the headliner's name out there as soon as possible. January 19th at 11 a.m., so that is next Friday. The online pre-sale will begin next Wednesday via Ticketmaster. So, yes, and the Hall of Fame ceremony will be on April 6, 2018 at 7:30, which would be the Friday, of course, before WrestleMania, since NXT TakeOver has been a thing. Last year, they did it the night before WrestleMania, which, quite honestly, I don't like the fact that they bucked tradition of having the Hall of Fame class be on Friday instead of Saturday. They could have NXT TakeOver be on Fridays. There's nothing wrong with that. Then have Saturday be the Hall of Fame and then Sunday be WrestleMania. But it is what it is. No one yet on broadcasts will be on USA, which of course it will be. Since they've been on USA Network, there's always been a special one. Of course, that would probably be like Goldberg and the Dudley Boys and maybe Ivory, and that's it. Sad news coming out of Paige. Paige is reportedly done as an in-ring competitor in WWE. PW Insider, this just broke today, so on Friday, so you guys are seeing this on Saturday. This just broke when I'm recording this. PW Insider has reportedly confirmed with multiple sources that following her recent injury at a WWE live event, Paige will not be cleared by WWE doctors to return to the company as an in-ring performer. They're comparing the situation to Edge's medical disqualification from the ring that led to his retirement. The full report can be found, including Paige comments on recent setback. Paige was informed a decision by WWE earlier this week. Paige appears to have received a stinger in her 6-woman tag team match back on December 28th when she turned around. It was just a normal spot. Anybody who wants to blame Sasha Banks are way out of line. Sasha Banks, she was like attacking Sasha Banks in the corner. She turned around to taunt. Sasha Banks jumps up and kicks her in the back. She goes down, and she does not get back up. Due to the stinger, Paige could not feel her extremities, which pretty much means she got something like she probably had a spinal injury or something. Paige will be replaced in the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match. I don't know by who. WWE has yet to confirm this report. Once or if they do, we will have an announcement here. So that is sad because Paige just made her return last month, bringing up Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville for Absolution. It is devastating. The entire year, it was 1 year in the making, 1+ year in the making, Paige returns. She returns, she's around for a little over a month or two, and she's done right now. So it's sad to see Paige, who has a lot of potential and could have did, given the right storyline, done a lot for the women's division on Raw, on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown Live after the Superstar Shakeup. If they do another one, it's sad to see that go because that just takes the total women active on the Monday Night Raw roster down one, and that's not good for anybody. Anytime you lose a superstar to any injury or anything, it does hurt the product, and Paige is worth a lot more than that, than what she's been going with. So it's a bummer to see that. Will she stay with WWE as a manager or something else? I don't know. That's all we can tell for now, but it's sad to see that Paige will not be wrestling for WWE anymore, and she is going to be missed as an in-ring competitor. Dolph Ziggler is being reported that he will return this month. Dolph Ziggler is expected to return to either at the Royal Rumble or on the SmackDown 2 days later, which I'm going to say SmackDown 2 days later. There's no reason unless he's going to actually be in the Rumble match, which I don't think he's going to be, which would actually break his streak of 9 straight Royal Rumbles. He will be back, of course, the Tuesday after to start a feud with the winner of the United States Championship Tournament. WrestleVotes also noted there is an idea of doing a WrestleMania 10 inspired angle with Dolph Ziggler where he returns to wrestle the US title tournament winner for the title in a ladder match. Basically, what, if anybody doesn't know, WrestleMania 10, months and months beforehand, Shawn Michaels about Survivor Series time, was suspended in WWE for a drug violation or something else while he was Intercontinental Champion. WWE contacted Michaels and was like, we need you to give the title back. Shawn Michaels refused. This was back when WWE didn't have replica titles. Well, like if someone was to do this now and they had the title on their hands, like WWE could run to one of the tables and grab a replica title and go and use that for now. They didn't have that back then. They didn't have the ones that look real. They had those cheesy ones that look like plastic and whatnot, and it wouldn't work. So they had to make a second Intercontinental title, which was decided by the winner, by the co-winners of a Battle Royal, which took place, and the winners of those were the model Rick Lantel and Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon ended up winning the Intercontinental title in that match. A couple weeks later, or like a month or so later, Shawn Michaels returned with his Intercontinental title and proclaimed himself to be the true Intercontinental champion. These two faced off in the first ever WWE ladder match that was on TV. And they had a stellar match at WrestleMania 10 in what was heralded one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. So good that a year or so later they had a rematch at SummerSlam. So basically what they want to do is have Dolph Ziggler come back with what I'm going to say would be a new design for the U.S. Championship, holding the belt, having the belt, coming back saying, I never relinquished that thing, I was just getting rid of it because that title was old news. This is the new U.S. title, and I am the U.S. champion. And he faces the winner of the U.S. Championship Tournament, which I'm going to say is going to be Jinder Mahal at WrestleMania in a ladder match. And it would probably be a stellar match because Dolph Ziggler can make anybody look good. I don't know if Jinder Mahal can make anything look good, but we will see. So, yes, I expect Dolph Ziggler, and I expected that before I read this. I expected Dolph Ziggler to come back after the Royal Rumble, proclaiming he is the true U.S. champion and that this is going to set up a ladder match at WrestleMania. I will commend WWE, though, because usually when somebody is written off like this on TV, they don't miss house shows. They're actually still wrestling around the world with the rest of the wrestling company. They're just not on main TV. WWE actually went out of their way to have Dolph Ziggler pulled from all house shows So pretty much Dolph Ziggler got a vacation. He got like a month and a half. He got like a month and a half vacation for WWE. So that's good. Maybe he'll be cheered, or the heart will feel like maybe he'll. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but that's gonna be a lot of great. That's gonna be great for him. All right, I think yeah. Now we have two more stories here. So Kenny, a couple months ago, Corey Graves had his show Straight to the Source debut, and his first guest was Roman Reigns. In that episode, Roman Reigns pretty much proclaimed that he is the best wrestler in the world. Kenny Omega had a little bit something to say about that. Who just had a match of the year candidate. I'm not gonna say it's a match of the year yet. We are in January. NXT is gonna have matches. I'm not saying WWE because unless they give us Nakamura versus AJ Styles or something to that caliber, the main roster is not going to have anything like that. But NXT is going to have great matches. Ring of Honor, Defiant Wrestling, and New Japan are going to have great matches in February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. You cannot say that Jericho versus Omega is point blank the match of the year in January. Come talk to me December 31st, 2018, when we go through an entire year of wrestling. We have so much still to go, and matches we don't even know what's going to happen. So right now, it's a match of the year candidate. Roman Reigns got the internet buzzing last month when he, on the debut episode of Corey Graves Straight to the Source for the WWE Network, he point blank declared, "I am the best performer in the ring in the world right now." Many believe the remark to be at least somewhat directed at New Japan's Kenny Omega. He of the three Wrestling Observer rated 6 stars 2017 matches. Among those thought that was apparently Kenny Omega himself. Omega had to say, and it's not like there's not a precedent for the big dog taking some implied jabs at Kenny this isn't him yet. And his friend stablemates the Young Bucks for the elite of the Bullet Club to take aim with some thinly veiled shots of their own. The IWGP US champ and fellow self-proclaimed best in the world isn't mad, as he's not sure Roman Reigns wasn't fed the line by his bosses anyway. In fact, he admires the quote, but he definitely doesn't agree with it. Here are his comments from the recent talk with the Bleacher Report, and Kenny had to say, "I don't know if Roman was put up to saying a comment like that. No, he wasn't. He said that pretty much just to get people to talk. I'm pretty much sure he said that to troll everybody. Quite honestly, everybody in the world who wrestles should have a feeling, especially when you're in WWE. AJ Styles probably says that about himself. Daniel Bryan, of course, says that when he wrestles. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bates, Adam Cole, Drew McIntyre, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, I guarantee each and every one of them to themselves says they are the best at what they do. Is Roman Reigns the best wrestler in the world today? No. Is it wrong for him to say that? No. He is a wrestler who wants to be the best. If you come into the wrestling business and you don't think you're going to be the best or you are the best, you're not in the right business. You have to have that mindset. You have to have that mindset that you are the best. Even if you aren't, you have to have that mindset that you are one of the, if not the absolute best, so you can go out there and put on a great match. The one person I say that doesn't have the right to say that is Jinder Mahal, because that guy is just awful. If it was something that he was constantly thought of himself, but I thought it was a pretty smart of him to do to say that, because it became instantaneously a topic that people were talking about. And just because it sounds so ridiculous, you know what I mean. I don't have to feel like I have to speak up about it. It's what it is what it is, and I understand that it's a fun thing for fans to generate interest in the product. I take absolutely zero offense in him saying it, especially since it is quite clear that the fact of the matter is much, much different. Huge in Japan and pretty much everywhere else. Pretty much Kenny Omega said he is out of his mind. Is it wrong for him to say that? Absolutely not. But Roman Reigns to say he is the best in the world? No. AJ Styles goes out there and says it on WWE TV. He is the best in the ring. When CM Punk was in the WWE, he said the same thing. So is Chris Jericho, so is Kevin Owens, and so has John Cena. Everybody, if you're in the wrestling business and you do not think that you are going to be the absolute best, then get out of the wrestling business, because you are not where you need to be. huge in Japan and pretty much everywhere else in the world. It looks like Kenny Omega will be wrestling in the New Japan Wrestling for at least one more year, speaking of Kenny Omega. According to Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Omega has inked a new contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling. As far as Omega goes, on 1/9 he signed his new contract, so it's official. He is with New Japan through January 31st, 2019, so he won't be in the Royal Rumble this year or next year, or WrestleMania, which no doubt won't keep people from speculating on his role in those shows daily. No, so all these talks and all these videos of Kenny Omega's going to be in the Royal Rumble, Kenny Omega's going to make a surprise in the Royal Rumble, those can go away. He's not going to be in the Rumble. Even if he didn't sign a one-year deal, his contract ends on January 31st. His contract this year would have ended on January 31st. He wouldn't have been able to be in the Royal Rumble due to that contract because the Royal Rumble is on January 28th. So, no, he is not going to be in the WrestleMania this year. He's not going to be at the Royal Rumble this year. Even if he wanted to sign with WWE this year, he wouldn't be going to WWE because of the All In pay-per-view, which he is going to be a part of in September on September 1st. Fresh off maybe his best pro match, best a year as a pro, the 34-year-old Canadian could have had his pick of where to compete next, with reportedly the option to hit the free agent market and potentially sign with WWE. Omega made the conscious decision to re-up with New Japan and try to top his 2017 series of matches with even a better 2018. He's off to a really good start with that match against Chris Jericho, so I don't know where he's going to go from here. Maybe a match with Cody Rhodes, but yeah. He's off to a good start, I will say that. The current IWGP US Heavyweight Champion, Omega, just had a match of the year candidate with Chris Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom 12 and looks to be on track for a big feud with Cody Rhodes for control of the Bullet Club. Which, that's another thing. We'll know when Kenny Omega is leaving New Japan is when when either the Bullet Club is gone or he is gone from the Bullet Club. Until then, he's going nowhere. Resigning with New Japan also allows for Omega to wrestle the Ring of Honor and compete at the All In Indie Super Show with his pals Young Bucks, Rhodes, and others in September. One last thing, we're at an hour and 36 minutes here. Triple H missed SmackDown Live this past week for a dinner with Ronda Rousey. TMZ was out and about in Los Angeles last night on January 9th, which was a couple days ago. When are they not out and about? Doing TMZ things, and doing TMZ things means catching stuff like WWE Executive President Triple H Levesque having dinner with Ronda Rousey. It's hard to tell from the video posted by TMZ Sports, but the folks on the ground say it shows Triple H leaving the Republic restaurant in LA moments before Ronda and her agent exit. In speaking to Rousey on her rap, neither gave up any information about the meeting and never even confirmed it was in fact Hunter they were dining with, but we'll take them at their word on at least seeing him. It would have been easy enough for Ronda and her manager to deny when asked if it wasn't a dinner with the game. Which, that's just TMZ speculating right there, but if this is on around the time of SmackDown Live, and Triple H and WWE, like all WWE employees are supposed to be at Raw and SmackDown, unless he's doing something with NXT that night, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be at SmackDown. So if he's missing SmackDown Live, and he's coming out of this restaurant around that time, there's got to be something that he's working on at that time and having a meeting with somebody. If it's not Rousey, then somebody else was there that we didn't see, or they didn't see. The celebrity news site makes it sound like a big deal because Triple H missed the January 9th SmackDown and 205 Live tapings in Birmingham, Alabama. And while it may be rare for him to miss a televised show, he was in California as the 25th anniversary of Raw was celebrated at the Television Critics Awards Association winner 2018. I think they got that wrong. This is more newsworthy because we're coming up on the Royal Rumble, and the former USA Bantamweight Champion is rumored to be making her WWE debut at the January 28th pay-per-view in Philadelphia, possibly even as the winner of the first ever Royal Rumble for the women. Of course, there's also reports that she'll be in Colombia filming Mile 22, a movie she's doing with Mark Wahlberg on that date, so last we heard, there was no deal in place between Rousey and WWE, but that hasn't stopped reports that there will soon be, was it finally hashed out over a quick entree last night, and on Tuesday? Probably not. Rousey will be in WWE by the end of the year. I figured, I have a feeling of that. By WrestleMania, we will probably see Ronda Rousey in the WWE. Will she be there this coming Royal Rumble? I don't think so. I don't want her in the Royal Rumble simply because unless Asuka is going to be winning the Women's Championship at the Royal Rumble, which, as rumors being said, there is not going to be a women's title match at the Royal Rumble because of the women's Royal Rumble match. Raw 25 seems like the best place to take the title off of Asuka. Take the title off of Bliss and give it to Asuka. That opens up the Royal Rumble for other people to win. Quite honestly, if Asuka's in the Royal Rumble match, she has to win it because it would just make it look. It would put pressure on WWE to have Asuka in that match. One more thing, also speaking of Asuka, and this would be the dumbest thing they have ever done if they do it. Asuka is undefeated. She went 520 some days as NXT Women's Champion. Has not lost a match in her entire time in WWE. And the rumor going around is WWE wants to sabotage her undefeated streak for the Mixed Match Challenge, which starts next Tuesday. This coming Tuesday. Why? Why would you want to take a big thing like that and ruin it on something that not even half of your audience is going to see? So it could bring awareness to the product. I don't understand that. If they do that and Asuka loses, if they're going to have Asuka and The Miz lose, which quite honestly, if you're going to have Asuka in this Mixed Match Challenge, which you are, she has to win the whole thing. She has to. It makes no sense for her to be there, not to win. Quite honestly, you should have her go out there and just submit all the women, have The Miz do barely anything. Just have her do most of the work and make her look more like that. If anything, also put if it's I don't have the bracket up, but if her and Miz go up against Sami Zayn or something, put Sami Zayn in the armbar or something and just have him pass out. Probably wouldn't do that, but Asuka's got to be the winner. If they're going to have The Miz and Asuka lose, she cannot take the pinfall. If you have Asuka lose this in this Mixed Match Challenge, why would you ruin something that's been built up since day one in 2015, I believe? Yeah, 2015. Something that's been built up for years. Not just months, not just days, but years. Why would you ruin that for something that's going to be a one-time thing? We're not going to see a Mixed Match Challenge next year. It's this year, and that's it. We haven't, tournaments are great, but if you're going to take this phenomenon, which is Asuka, which has grown naturally, and just kill it like that for something that means nothing next month. When this Mixed Match Challenge thing is over, yes, it's great for the charity that they're doing it for, great for that, but are we going to be talking about that next month? Unless you're ruining Asuka, it's not going to, nobody's going to care. The Mixed Match Challenge is nothing. It's just going to be a one-time thing that goes for 12 weeks, and as soon as it's over, nobody's going to care. So, I hope they do not ruin Asuka. And they actually, The Miz and Asuka should win this whole thing. If you're going to have the Mixed Match Challenge, if you're going to have Asuka and The Miz lose, it's probably going to be against Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss, and Braun Strowman just power slams the bejesus out of, that would be a heck of a sight too. You have Miz and Asuka versus Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. I think it'd have to be in the second round. Braun Strowman hits a power slam on Miz. Asuka breaks it up. It breaks up the pin, and Asuka does not back down from Braun Strowman. That would be just an amazing feat. Of course, Braun Strowman couldn't put his hand on a woman because that's an automatic DQ, as it's been stated in any WWE game you've ever played, and I believe in any WWE match where a guy puts his hands on a woman. But that is going to be all for this week's news, rumors, and predictions. And we are getting closer and closer to the Royal Rumble. We will be back here on Monday for a Raw review. Make sure to follow me on Twitter @TheFrance. Follow me on twitch.tv/TheFrance08. And thank you for those who did watch the first episode. This is a new adventure for me, and I hope we will have a name soon. An official name soon, because news, rumor, predictions does not really roll off the tongue. It's just the start. If you have a suggestion for a wrestling-related name for my podcast, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys. But that is going to be all. I am on here for a good while. I will see you guys on Monday for the Raw review. It's the week before Raw 25, and we will have more news next week, predictions as well as we get closer to the Royal Rumble. Until then, my name is The France, and I will see you guys later.